You're listening to Traumedy, the podcast that helps you take your pain and play with it. I'm Nancy Norton. I am a comedian. I'm a registered nurse, and I also studied therapeutic humor, and we need it. I'm telling you right now. People don't believe it, but it can actually save your life to laugh. Yes, it gives you perspective, gives you serotonin, bonds you with people. Shifts energy, so many good things. Anywho, this episode is part 2 with Jeff Koehn. Jeff Koehn is an artist, he's a comedian, he's a musician, and I would recommend listening to part 1 first because there's some background there, and he is sharing about a severe episode that felt like a major setback that turned out to be a serendipity. There's a lot of talk about the Bible and meaning, and I'm not a religious person. I'm going to be honest. I was raised Christian and Lutheran, sort of. I mean, we sort of went to church, but so many ways to get spiritual awakening or whatever that is, to get through it. And if you're not spiritual at all, that's okay too. A friend of mine who I helped through the dying process, David Gray, also went by Deacon Gray. He was a comedian, and he just said creativity is my God, which makes sense because the creator creating. I feel like when I'm creating, I am one with the creator. So I get that. Anyway, hey, whatever gets you there, the whole point of Traumedy is to not get stuck, to not let traumas, challenges, stresses take you down into that powerlessness and helplessness. And I love that Jeff talks about depression.
I don't suffer from those depressive episodes anymore, hardly ever. And when they start sneaking up, I know what to do in my mind to kind of get down to the root and then unravel it.
And so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hey, if you want to come to a comedy show with old Nance is going to the Ozarks. That's right, back to the roots, back to the homeland. The Branson Comedy Factory in Branson Columns, and that is this week, June 26th to the 28th. And then I'm going to go down to my dad's fishing cabin, my family fishing cabin, and maybe do a little boating, a little riding, a little walking in the woods. Try not to get chiggers. And I may connect with a long-lost cousin who found me through one of my reels. If you haven't seen my reels, I've got a dry bar comedy special out there, and I have an open bar comedy special. Yin Yang of Old Nance. I got the clean kind of... My dry bar special is called Super Dork, and my open bar special is called Sippin' Whiskey and Talkin' Dirty. It's all part of me. And hey, but the one that went kind of viral is talking about in Alabama, they had outlawed pleasure penetrating devices. Henceforth, they're known as deal don'ts, deal do not, deal better not. And that whole bit was getting shared around quite a bit. And I guess one of my cousins liked it and started sharing it with her friends and shared it with her sister who said, hey, that's our cousin. And I found my long lost cousin, and I'm so excited because we have a lot in common. And I'm looking forward to hearing more stories. Oh, you know how to find my comedy shows if you ever want to go to one. NancyNorton.tv. That's Nancy Norton. That's my website. NancyNorton.tv, like television. And that'll take you to comedy shows and comedy specials and other stuff. All right. Have a great week. I'll be in the Ozarks. Enjoy this episode. I'll see you on the other side.
The kind of traumas that I've been through, that would send me into a psych ward, which I had been in one before. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, but because, is it related to the adoption trauma or dissociation or something?
Very indirectly. Let's see if I can give you the very succinct.
And if you don't want to, you can just say, hey.
Oh, I do love to talk about it, but that is such a deep, involved story. That event completely. All right, I'm going to do a plug for the hero's journey.
Yeah.
If you read any of those classic books that talk about the hero's journey, there is this kind of step, that there's this progression that happens in all of those. And so we meet the hero, but the hero doesn't know he's a hero. He's in his little Garden of Eden, kind of in the womb, so to speak. And then through some type of message, his calling arrives in the mailbox, let's say, and he looks at it and he's kind of like, what? No, not like Moses, like, what, me? No, I'm not the guy for that. Get the strong hero. I'm just this weird, awkward, whatever, but it's like, nope, this is your calling. And then what it says next is that there has to be an event that launches the hero out of the cave, the comfort zone. And he starts the pursuit down the path of the journey. Well, the first character that he meets is called the Threshold Guardian. And that guardian is a villain, or seems to be a villain. Yeah. So in 1988, okay, it's like, I got to tell this story now. So I had this best friend in high school, and, we, in a way, when you vibe with someone, you kind of fall into a comfort zone in that friendship. But somewhere in there, he started hanging out with this other person who would become the Threshold Guardian. And this person I knew from even way back, because we all went to school together, very small town, Wisconsin. This other person I always stayed away from because something was like very off. I would now label it some type of narcissistic sociopath type.
Yes, you knew he
always manipulating and screwing with people and trying to control and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, he started hanging around with that guy, and he said, "Oh no, you got him all wrong. He's really cool, actually. That's just a mask, because we all put on social." And I started noticing that my best friend, I'm like, "Dude, you're sounding different. This is creeping me out." He's like, "No, you got it wrong. Blah blah blah," and I kind of ignored it. But part of me, the people pleaser me, was like, "Man, I admire. I'm envious of that kind of perceived power that person has." So this was all like little planting of seeds in me. And the other thing too is that, ever since I was a little kid, I was like spiritually seeking, and my parents weren't Christian, but they took us to church once in a while.
So they were Lutheran, but not
really. I don't even know if Lutheran is the right label.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You called yourself Lutheran earlier, but that was just a generic.
Just kind of a,
generic, like.
Wisconsin Lutheran. The culture is very Lutheran.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. The church that I grew up in, sort of, was the United Church of Christ, which has Lutheran-ish kind of components.
Okay.
And interestingly, very politically, very, very far left. But as a little kid, I never caught what that pastor was talking about, because he'd mention God, but then he would talk about kind of the very almost like communistic values. And all of that went right over my head because, 5 years old, I'm like, oh wow, look at the ceiling tile,
Yes.
ADD.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a general belief. I had this neighbor, and I hope I don't start sounding too like uber. I'm Christian, but I'm not like what you might call a legalistic, condemning kind of Christian, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like I have very strong beliefs due to the experience that I will get to.
Okay, cool.
The hero's journey thing sent me in that direction.
Well, and we're so surrounded now by these Christian nationalists, and I mean, not surrounded, but it's up in the power with this administration and the pseudo, I call it the pseudo Christians.
Well, it's very pseudo Christian, I think, because, and I know a lot of people, and I think some are very genuinely have the faith, but they just haven't examined where it doesn't actually fit, because like, Jesus basically said, hey, believe in me and you have, this gets, I've studied the Greek words behind. So he said, people misquote it and say, if you believe in me, you have eternal life. He actually says aeonian life, which pertains to ages. Like there's going to be this age followed by this age And what he says to wrap up the whole thing, which nobody seems to talk about, which is amazing, is, and then after all that is said and done, there's a Greek phrase, eis tos ionis ton ionen, and it's in the book of Revelation, where they're talking about the lake of fire, which isn't the lake of fire, it's the refiner's fire, is what it actually says. And it doesn't say they will be thrown into the lake of fire where they'll be tortured forever and ever. It says they will be cast into the refining fire in the age of ages. That's what eis tos ionis ton ionen. I'm getting really geeky here.
I love this. I'm just blown away that how much of a seeker you are that you actually went to the Greek.
Well, it's worth to me, and again, that comes through trauma too. I was in the Pentecostal church where the guy would say, the Bible says this, God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. And I'm like, that sounds very dumb that you would just, I'm like, okay, so that's it. So we're then just supposed to go on your word because you have this much understanding, and you're like, well, that's what it says. And I'm like, no, I think, what if it means something way different,
And you took a deeper dive than the pastor. And then
because I couldn't believe that God would, it says God is love, so why would love torture anyone? That's blasphemous to me.
Yeah.
And so I uncovered that it's talking about...
I'm guessing you didn't last long in the Pentecostal church. How long were you in there?
Well, now you have to understand this whole journey was... It had to unravel and unfold.
Okay, let me let you just...
No, that's okay. That's fine. I was in that kind of Pentecostal... it's funny. I went from hyper-Pentecostal church, then I moved to Colorado in 93, and I found the mild Pentecostal church, which was more,
the mile high,
grace-oriented. Yeah,
the mile high Pentecostal church.
I think some of them might have been high, yeah. But they were much more the grace of God and freedom in the belief system and being connected to God. And even if you blow it, it's like God doesn't, and this is the thing that, again, if I sound too a merciful God, because we're all imperfect humans with our own filters, and God isn't sitting there going, hey, what are you doing? Come on. He's not up there doing that. He's like, okay, this is okay. Oh, he's going over there. All right, let's try to move it that way. But it's all part of I think even the whole Garden of Eden narrative was all set in motion because I have to send these spiritual beings into the great refining fire, because how could they appreciate the perfect divine eventually unless they've gone through contrast and struggle?
That's the whole thing, right? Where how do we know kind of back to that Jungian thing, how do we know our light if we don't know our shadow?
Exactly. And what if, I've gone even this far, what if the whole reincarnation thing is a version of that refining fire? And here's the part, getting back to the Greek thing.
Okay.
When I looked up the whole thing about, it always says, I'm like, why does it say fire and brimstone? And I looked up, okay, what is brimstone? Well, brimstone is what ancient blacksmiths would test the purity of gold with. You would take the gold out of the pot. Oh, and that's the fun thing too. Lake of Fire is actually crucible, which is the pot. There's actually a tutorial. There's a guy on YouTube that says, I've got this little crucible and I'm going to show you how to refine gold the old school way. And he keeps taking the gold out and then strikes it on, there's like this slab.
And that's the brimstone?
That's the brimstone.
And then the way it behaves on there.
Yeah, like it leaves a mark. Now, if the mark is green, it's like, oh, there's alloys in there, there's base metal. We have to put the gold back in the fire.
To cook out the base.
Yep. It
burns off at a different temperature.
It burns off, and it's sulfurization. So you've heard about the lake of fire and sulfur is often said. The sulfur is the oxidizing agent, I guess. Yeah. And so it's a perfect metaphor for, and I'm sure the people reading it back then were like, oh, well, that doesn't sound pleasant to have to keep going through that process.
But it's a purification process.
Yeah.
Oh,
because, if you think about it, if it says
as we reincarnate in the evolution and we're like, okay, I'm gonna try again, and then I'm gonna go back and redo. I've listened to this book. I don't know if you've, or I've listened to, probably did listen to. I read it, I think, actually the first time. Many Lives, Many Masters. I don't know if you've heard of that book by
no.
Brian Weiss. Anyway, anyway, you know what? It's going to be hard for us to like, how do we get back to your 1988 going to the psych ward and having your hero's journey? I know, like, I feel like we could have part 2, 3, 4, 5.
Maybe.
So I adore your mind. I am like, the fact that you are such a, not only a curious person, but like you dove in and then you're able to recite these things. Like I sometimes look up something, but then I'm not able to even recount it.
I think it comes from like the passion. Like, okay, if you're in a traumatized environment and you feel, it's like, I have found my spiritual path. I had what I consider a very real revelation of Jesus. Like I felt the presence of God when this event happened. It was at the end of, or let's say actually the real beginning of the hero's journey. But this one night in September of '89, I'm like, God, who are you? I feel like I'm climbing this ladder and I'm never going to be good enough. And then this amazing thing happened. This little almost voice in my head said, forgive your enemy. That was the threshold guardian character.
That sociopath.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? Did you just saw what this whole thing that happened, right? I was in the psych ward because of this. And
so he derailed you to such a place because you gave away your power, because you wanted
right there. Yeah.
Well, this is one of the things in my recovery program as a recovering codependent, that one of the sayings is we made other people our God. We made other people our
absolutely.
higher power. And you ended up getting under his spell in a way.
Yep. And that's a very repeated cycle where you'll have a codependent linked up with a narcissistic type person.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. And I've had relationships like that.
You and me both.
But I said, okay, fine. I don't exactly know how to forgive, but okay, fine. And then just like that.
And you said yes.
Yeah, I said yes.
I forgive.
I can barely describe what happened. You know how I talk about that dissociative identity thing. First time in my life, it went away. Like I felt this, let's just say a spirit suddenly indwell me. And I'm like, I almost like leapt out of the bed. Like this was at midnight or something, I leapt out of the bed and I'm like, whoa, okay, wow, I get it. I understand the whole religious thing and God and Jesus and all that kind of stuff. And there's all this wrong bullshit about it that, like, if God totally forgave me and all humanity, then what does that say? That means that, well, then I don't have to jump through any hoop and I don't have to let or make anyone jump through any hoop for me. And I don't know. Again, I hope this
so
doesn't
much freedom.
sound...
No, it's like a freedom.
And now, granted, a bunch of crap kind of came back over it at different times in my life. But there's a core thing.
We go back to forgetting.
Yeah. And then you get reminded in like these really cool, surprising ways, I think. And again, I'm not trying to exclude anyone.
I need to hear this, Jeff. I'm very selfish with my podcast. There's a reason. The mission statement is to help heal myself and others. And
sure.
So,
yeah.
like you are giving me nuggets today.
Ugh.
Like I just want you to know that. Like I go in and out. I will love it. I go in and out of forgiving my mother or forgiving my, sociopathic abusers. But then I'm like, Nance, you, in a weird way, clocked in, signed up. I don't know, even though it feels like the roller coaster bar clicked down. And I'm like, I got in this car, anyway, so you're giving me a nugget here. Like, how do you keep remembering that is the key to like okayness or something? I don't know. That's oversimplified.
Boy, and again, I could and should write a book on this. I've actually written an outline.
This came through my mind like about 5 minutes ago. I said, I hope Jeff writes a book.
Well, it's in the works, actually, believe it or not.
You're a great writer. I'm sitting here. I just want to get off the mic and I've been leaning back, like closing my eyes, like I'm listening to this story. I want to hear it.
My brain splinters so much.
ADHD Well, then that's just life too. Your life has gone off on many forks in the path.
So this is a good place to jump back in. My friend Michael, Ogre, we called him, and we talked on the phone a lot years ago, and he told me, he goes, Jeff, there's this there's this thing where you could say that life is thin threads, like connected together on your journey. And I call them thin threads because if you had taken a left instead of a right, there's no way you could have made it to this point in life. And that's why, like, he and I agree that, yeah, there's a divine spirit that, moves us through life, whether it's the more challenging cyclical thing or the, some people just get the instant revelation kind of thing of God or whatever, So for me, the thin threads thing is, so I told you the whole setup to my best friend and the narcissist. And the thing that creeped me out is that about a month before the thing happened, me and my best friend were kind of hanging out, and he said, yeah, man, this person, a lot of people are freaked out by him because, like, he has a lot of very interesting and controversial views on religion and spirituality, and a lot of people think that that's like black magic and Satanism and all this kind of stuff. And but I don't even think that's. So he said something to me that kind of, and it was probably manipulative because he wanted the reaction. But my friend said, yeah, he said to me that, well, what if Jesus was actually the Antichrist and not the Christ or the Messiah? And I was just like, oh my God. Well, how can you not think that that's satanic, And anyway, so fast forward.
But did that provoke you?
Yeah, I had kind of mixed feelings because this is a year before I had that revelation and like meeting with the presence of God. I wasn't really yet a believer. I still had all kinds of
just still more just gathering data points.
Yeah, and kind of had a belief, but.
And I think during adolescence, especially, we're questioning everything, and there's an openness, but there's also that very critical thinking that's going on. At least for me, I remember that. I remember being 19 and going to college and getting, because I grew up in Springfield, Missouri, the buckle of the Bible Belt. And
oh yeah,
it's like, but my dad always did say, I just want you to go to church so you know how to behave if we ever go there. And he loved to sing. He loved to sing.
Sure. Yeah.
And he was a theologian. Like, he had studied the Bible, but didn't quite believe it. That time of life is like you're a seeker, And
I think when you're a seeker, I think God or the divine will point you toward big passions because I think those things they're like the train engine that moves you down the track. And ultimately, it isn't just for you. There's a blessing that spreads to, like when you said that you feel like you're there in my painting or that it's part of you. Yeah. I feel like that's my mission with art, is that I want you to be brought into, I want it to spark one of your memories or something. I don't even know exactly, what that means, but
tap into the collective unconscious.
Yeah, that used to be such a, when I would hear that, I'm like, oh, that's New Age. I was kind of freaked out by the New Age. And I'm not anymore because I understand the whole thing more broadly, I think. But in that moment, there was this emerging big passion that I was, introduced to. So I'm a marching band geek in high school. And we were okay as a marching band, but one year we were actually my brother. I wasn't yet in the band, but my parents took me to see my brother compete with all these other marching bands. There was a group at the end of the night that came on an exhibition that wasn't part of the competition. They were all these guys that were. It was called the Madison Scouts Drum and Bugle Corps, and I'm like, well, what's a drum and bugle corps? And what are they, Boy Scouts or something? But I started hearing people in the audience be like, oh my God, no, they're like world champion, professional level, wait till you see them. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I was watching the marching bands and everything. And, being a 7th grade kid, I was like, wow, they're so good musically and all that.
Did they give you goosebumps? I used to get chills with the marching band.
Yeah, I would get chills.
It's powerful.
It's very powerful. But then I kind of look over, and to get into the stadium, there's kind of this long hill, and I look over and I see this long line of like these guys. They were like set up 2 by 2, And it was like this very dark green uniform. It had like this red sash and these kind of white Aussie hats, but without the feather, just this, kind of a bit cooler looking than these marching bands. And as I looked closer at them, they were kind of like these very rebel-looking guys. It's an all-male corps, or it was back then. And they looked like members of Black Sabbath. They all had kind of the wavy hair under the Aussie mustaches. And then you hear a count off, and they started marching, or what I call floating, because they had like, it's very dark uniform, but they had these white spats, and all you could see from here was this perfect glide step, like the feet were hitting and rolling through at the exact same time.
They were so tight.
So tight, and yet they were kind of like, they were so confident. And you know how when you see a seasoned comic versus a newbie, they're so confident and laid back, and yet they have tight, perfect jokes, but it's like nothing. You feel that energy.
Yeah.
You're watching these kids who are very talented, and then all of a sudden these guys who are like, this is nothing. And that's just getting onto the field.
Yes.
Then they line up and they hit, and this isn't like, so marching bands have trombones, clarinets, tubas, saxophones. This was all brass, like pointed, bell front.
Right at
held out like this.
Right at the bleachers.
Yeah, straight at you. And they hit the first note, and I was like, whoa, like it was this wall of sound. And you talk about like spine tingling all the way down to my feet. And I was so blown, and the level of difference between even the winners and this group, I'm like, oh my God, secretly one day,
I'm going to do that.
I want to do that. So anyway, that's like back in 7th grade. And then I went through the rest of middle school, high school, and I would think about seeing that once in a while. And in fact, every time that when I was in the marching band, I thought, we're pretty good, but there was always that standard.
What do you play?
So when I got, when I was in marching band, baritone, which is like, it's the same sound as a trombone, but like fuller.
Oh.
So there's baritone saxophone, but the baritone, do you know what a euphonium is?
No.
That's kind of the same thing.
Oh. I'll have to look at a picture.
Picture like a miniature tuba. So that's what I played in high school marching band. In concert band, it was like you held it in your lap and the bell points up like that.
Okay, I think I have seen that.
Because it's part of a concert thing. But in high school marching band, it was like we had them up on our shoulder, so the bell pointed forward. And then, but in drum and bugle corps, I've got these big shoulders from holding this monster up out in front of me. So anyway, high school passes, and summer of '88, my mom says, "Hey Jeff, there's some marching band on PBS," and so I run downstairs and turn it on, and I'm expecting marching band, but it's these high-level professional groups. Welcome to the DCI 1988 World Championships, and going into finals night here, we have 5 corps are poised to possibly be your winner, and they are the Cadets of Bergen County, Phantom Regiment, Cavaliers, Blue Devils, Santa Clara Vanguard, and the Madison Scouts from Madison. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember those guys.
From 7th grade?
Yeah, from way back.
Yeah.
And then I see their performance, and I'm just like, oh, whoa, like even more impressive. A few months pass. In October of '88, so I had been in our community jazz band. And so on this one Tuesday night, I go to, by the way, I'll also throw in here that during that time I started developing seasonal depression. So that colored the whole thing too.
Okay.
So one night and I'm feeling the depression, but I'm like, well, we got jazz band rehearsal, so okay, I'm gonna go down to the high school where we practice.
Can you just say, when you said I'm feeling the depression, what does it feel like to you? Like, is it just a lack of interest in everything, or why am I here, or I don't want to be here, or what? Is it a thought, or is it a feeling, or both?
At the time, it was an overwhelming feeling of dread because it was trauma-based, even though the seasonal part affected it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it was trauma-based. I didn't understand what was going on. Now I do perfectly. I can see in the rear view the whole mechanism for it. But
wow.
Anyway, so that night,
I was just thinking that might help listeners to say, like, listen, because some people don't know, like, that's depression, or that's, I think I was telling you when you came over, you're like, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, really good. During the day, I'm really good. And then the sun goes, I'm like, I think I have like sundowner depression, where and I think I had trauma in the night. Anyway, that's another story. But
sure.
All I'm saying is at night, I dissociate. Like, I've been watching nonstop poker. I'm doom scrolling. I'm watching chess. Like, all these things that just sort of take me out of feeling. Like an intellectual, like watching chess moves and just watching people play poker, and then scrolling until I'm like, what am I looking for? What is the one I'm waiting for? It's this, that. And then it's 4 a.m, and then I'm angry when I wake up at 12:30. I'm like, Nancy, you missed a beautiful sunrise. You could have gone on a hike.
Sure.
Who are you? Like, but then I'm like, yay, I'm happy. I'm going to see Jeff. I'm going to play Scrabble with Catherine. I'm happy. But then, is that depression, or
it could be?
Is that trauma? I think that's trauma. I've been talking to my trauma therapist. I think I need to do another deeper dive. She keeps asking me to ask, what is it I don't want to feel? And I don't know.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just loneliness that I don't want to feel, but there's something else that makes me want to cry. And
there's I can say for me what I uncovered, and I'm just going to fast forward to.
You don't have to fast forward. I just wanted to drop in for a second.
But I want to say something about that because I don't suffer from those depressive episodes anymore, hardly ever. And when they start sneaking up, I know what to do in my mind to kind of get down to the root and then unravel it.
Okay, that's what I want to hear.
So 2008, I'm with my therapist who specializes in adoption. She was an adoptee herself, and we're in a session, and for some reason, she decided, well, I have a new kind of method of therapy, and we're going to do that, and I want you to visualize. I forgot exactly what it was, but something about it kind of like snuck past a boundary with me.
Okay.
And I let it. Again, people pleaser, It made me very uncomfortable, but I didn't speak up, and I didn't even consciously realize that I wasn't speaking up. So we continued through the session, and she's like, okay, well, we'll see you next time. I get on my motorcycle to go home, and then all of a sudden, that, what I'll call the overwhelming wave of dread that actually makes me think I'm losing my mind, because it feels like everything is shifted off its axis. It hits me, and it's just the creepiest. It feels like a violation happening internally,
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, wow, all right, well, let me just get home. I get home, and I'm just so overwhelmed by it that I'm like, all I could do was lay down to take a nap. And I thought, let me just crash, and when I wake up, maybe I'll figure out what's going on. I wake up, the dread is 10 times worse, and now, and this has only happened maybe 3 times in my entire life, I felt actually suicidal. Like, not the ideation where you're like fantasizing about it, but I am going to have to make this feeling go away,
That's so overwhelming. Like it's intolerable.
It's intolerable. So somehow I had the presence of mind. I sent Kathy, my therapist, I sent her an email, and this is like 11 or midnight, and I'm like, hey, Kathy, this is Jeff. If you get this, please call me. I know it's late, but I am suicidal, and I want to try to look for another option.
Yeah. And desperate.
Boom, my cell phone rings. Wow. And she goes, what's going on? And I go, well, and I kind of hemmed and hawed because in that time of waking up, I thought I could identify where it was coming from, where it started. And I go, well, and in order to get it out in the open, I was going to have to confront her and say what happened.
That she was the impetus, or that process was.
That process was the impetus.
Yeah.
And it felt like, but this is, what if she hates me? And, like that whole...
Abandonment.
Yeah, all of that. Or how it was with my adoptive mother. She also had a degree of narcissism, and to stand up to her finally took amazing focus and courage and all that. So I said to Kathy, I'm like, okay, here's what it is, Kathy. And you might be mad, and we might have to part ways, and I'm sorry. But today in session, when you started putting us into this new method, it hit my trauma. I can't do it. I can't do that method. I need to go back to our old method. It was working fine, and I know that's probably going to offend you, but I can't handle that. It just creeps me out. And she said, "Oh my God, well, first of all, thank you for mentioning that." And she's like, "No, look, this is about you. We don't have to ever explore that type of therapy. We can go back to the talk therapy. This is all about, we're finding solutions." And well, first of all, as soon as I said, this is what happened, half of that depression, that dread just vanished. And then when she said, "No, this is perfectly fine. Thank you for giving a voice to this," it was 100% gone. And that's when I knew, oh my God, my depression has always been basically pushing my true self out of the way in order to people please.
Take care of the other person.
Yep.
And avoid, as codependents, we are terrified of abandonment. And I mean, is that okay that I keep saying we're codependents? I shouldn't do that. As a codependent,
no.
I am. Let me just say.
No, we can say we. That's
okay,
perfectly fine.
I'm just saying that is actually a codependent faux pas. But I am. Let me just tell you, I am a codependent, and I am terrified of abandonment. And I'm an adult child, which means I got stunted in my development at some point.
Spot on. I mean, me too. And I look at some of my addictive struggles. They are directly woven into... because those, I discovered those as coping mechanisms to medicate the core trauma. And weirdly enough, that basically I went on this whole path of actually permitting the addiction at the advice of a Christian counselor, believe it or not, this British guy. But he's awesome, because he was saying that half of this type of addiction is the shame and the fear and the condemnation of it. Here's a fun Bible verse. The Apostle Paul at one point says, "Because we are in the new covenant and not bound to the law anymore, all things are permissible, yet not all things are beneficial." And that was a paradigm shift, because the people he was writing that to only knew, do this and God will bless you, do that and God will curse you. He was saying, no, that's done and over with. Now we have a connection with God, and you can do whatever, I don't recommend doing whatever you want, but technically you could, and God's not going to be throwing you into hell or berating you.
There will
or
just
blah, blah,
be
blah.
natural consequences.
There's natural consequences, but that's the beauty of the journey, is that you get to find out, what would the loving thing be? If if I have the love of God and I'm imparting it to other people, well, I'm probably not going to be wanting to use them for my gratification. So it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this counselor, Colin, I'll never forget it. I was struggling with, I'm like, "Colin, okay, I've got a dilemma. Next week I'm going back to Madison, and I have this old boss, Cindy, and we had a connection, and we might end up, getting in bed, and I'm hemming and hawing about it." And he finally says, he goes, "Oh my God, dear boy, just fuck her already." Because what you're doing in your own mind is a far greater sin than if you just connect and have this lovely time. And he gave balance to it and everything. But oddly enough, when as I've been really going for it in the comedy thing, that whole addiction, the needing to go find hookup partners, has just just dwindled. I finally found self-validation in the specific area that I was trying to find people-pleasing in that area, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. we took a few tangents, but I want to make sure we get back. So I'm going to reflect back, make sure I heard what you said, which was what helped me relieve my depression was when I actually started staying connected to my authentic experience, not abandoning myself to please another person.
Absolutely.
And I think self-abandonment is key. Like that's to recognize that. So I need to look at that. There's something in me that I must be abandoning myself at night because it's not the thing I really want to do. It's like I have some other things like are on my mind, like projects. I want to do some painting. I was an art major. My dad was a fine artist, and I mean, I have that art in me as well that needs to come out, but I'm not doing it. I'm scrolling instead. I'm like, why? And then anyway, okay, so I'm abandoning myself when I look at that. And then the other thing, back with the when we started off and you said, this is a whole story in and of itself when I went into the psych ward, and then you had and it was because of some, again, self-abandonment and making that guy your higher power or whatever. You lost yourself. You got lost. What happened? You dissociated so far that you got lost?
So Tuesday night, I'm trying to go to the band rehearsal.
Okay.
Find out, it was canceled. And I'm like, oh, man. Okay. So I go home. And a replay of that drum corps thing was on TV.
Okay.
And I saw it, and they had different camera angles, and I saw this big closer move that the Madison Scouts did where I literally jumped up and I'm like, okay. And they introduce the corps director on the broadcast. They're directed by Scott Stewart. I go to the phone and I call Madison Information, and I'm like, give me the number of either Scott Stewart or Madison Scouts Drum and Bugle Corps. They give me a number. I call the number, and this guy, Roger, who would later become one of my best friends, Roger answers, and I go, I want to talk to Scott Stewart. He's not here. He's in California. Well, I want to join or audition or whatever. And he goes, auditions are Thanksgiving weekend, and I can have him call you. And I'm like, I'll just try back in a couple of weeks, blah, 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 whatever, So this was the big hero's journey. Like, I wanted to go and get into that high level. And by the way, they won the world championship that year. Wow. So I get off the phone with this Roger guy. The phone rings. Hey, Jeff, it's Tom. Me and Rob and John are going to hang out down at the pool hall. Why don't you come down? I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. I go down there, and the guy in question basically said, hey, let's go back to my place and party and get high or whatever. Well, I go, and they're passing around a bowl, and I had never really tried marijuana. And I'm like, well, I don't want to look like an idiot. So every time it came around to me, I was just like full deep inhales.
Taking big hits.
Big hits of what was probably the equivalent of like chronic back then. This was like some pure stuff.
Whoa.
And my friend told me later that he counted, I probably took 12 to 14 hits of that thing.
Oh, no.
So I'm sitting there, and the main guy, we're all kind of just joking around and quoting George Carlin and stuff, just having fun. And then the guy turns to me and he says, hey, Jeff, I have a question for you. What do you know about religion? And he's like staring at me like creepily.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I didn't want to. Suddenly, I kind of closed down. I didn't want to reveal what I thought,
Yeah.
But he knew because he's talking to Tom.
Right.
And I go, I don't know. I believe in God, blah, 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 whatever. He goes, okay, that's cool. Well, what do you know about philosophy? And there was just something creepier about that even.
You could feel he was trying to...
Like you're doing something.
He's trying to set you up.
Yeah, this is something...
This is a setup.
So I kind of mumble something, and then he goes, okay, well, that's cool. Hey, guys, give me a second. I'll be right back. I got to go do something. So he disappears into the back room. A few minutes later, he comes out wearing this black robe with all these like diamond patterns on it, like really weird. He sits down, and behind him there was like this low shelf that I didn't notice it until this point. On one end there was like a red candle, and on the other end was a black candle. He lit the black candle, and I'm looking at it, seeing the whole thing, And then he lights the other candle, and all of a sudden, I'm like locked into a trance, and I'm feeling this force start to try to pull me out, like up through my head, out of my body.
What?
And yeah, talk about like occult,
Wow.
And now part of me,
like a demon.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like like a vibe. There was a vibration. And I couldn't talk. I was paralyzed, and I felt. But part of me said, "God protect me." And when I said that, all of a sudden, I kind of came back into my body. But I was like almost hovering out of the top of my head.
Wow.
And some people have said, "Oh, that was probably just all the pot that was hitting you."
I don't know. I got to tell you, I've never believed in demons myself until one of my guests came on, and she specializes in schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder. She's a psychiatrist, but she believes in nonlinear others.
Yeah.
She calls them nonlinear others. I don't know, man, because that sounds very, that's kind of freaking me out.
Yep. And
but that,
okay,
okay.
Then he started preaching, basically. And he starts saying, okay, well, have you ever noticed like you feel this way or think this way? Well, that's because like what you think is evil and darkness is actually good. And he was even hinting that God is the devil and the devil is God, that kind of, and it's a mind fuck, Looking back in the wider view, I think he was actually delving into a bit of Taoism, but it was mixed with just some other shit that he was getting into that was occultic. But
yeah,
because there were phrases that he was saying that you can read in the Tao or the
Tao Te Ching.
Tao Te Ching, yeah, like the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao,
right?
But he was saying stuff like that,
yeah.
But it just had this darkness to it. Even had us do exercises where close your eyes, ball up your fists, and now picture yourself sinking, going into a darker room, and don't worry, darkness is not evil, and then go darker and deeper and darker and deeper and darker. And I interpreted that as like pretty like literal, like I'm supposed to be embracing evil and darkness and all that. And I think in his mind, this is really an exercise to get you to surrender to your deeper inner self, but it certainly didn't come out that way.
I gotcha.
And I'm saying that because I want to give him some credit that this guy wasn't pure evil or even evil, just on his own journey. And
not necessarily trying to steal your soul.
Right. But I sure thought that was
your experience at the time.
Because just, being an abandoned adoptee with like a lot of paranoia.
And that ripping experience, that was very real.
But it's the best thing that ever could have happened to me. By the way.
Okay, here we go.
That night is traumatic. In fact,
this is your dark night of the soul.
Dark night of the soul.
Okay.
He was the agent of it unwittingly, or maybe a little bit wittingly, but he was the guy that I forgave. So I can look at him as, he just maybe didn't quite know what he was even involved in, and he might have had really good intentions, but it just didn't come off that way to me.
And there's some unconscious soul agreement, I feel, that happens,
Sure.
like a soul handshake. Like, I'm going to play this part in this lifetime or in this moment so that you can can break something down so that you can build something stronger.
Because 100%.
It's sort of like the wabi-sabi, like where something is stronger after it's been broken.
Yeah, look at when you work out in the gym, you're tearing down the muscle.
Yeah.
So, we went through that whole mystical, crazy thing, and one of the things that he said was, you'll notice when you start to regain kind of normal consciousness, the fake you will try to come back and suppress this you, which is this whole thing that happens now. This is the true you, and that really fucked my mind. But who knew that is some of the best stuff is getting to the shadow work.
Yeah.
But I advocate shadow work, but make it consensual.
Right. Like, with your therapist, where sometimes they tear down the wall, but you've got to have that, like I call my recovery program scaffolding, so that when I'm tearing down the foundation, I have this.
You have that.
I have the scaffolding of my program or my fellow travelers, to hold me up.
Yep. That night happened. The trauma hit me. the tearing apart. I mean, I felt these entities. I couldn't sleep at night for 6 weeks and I was still living with my parents. You know, I would go and sleep on their floor, and my dad, God love him, he didn't know what this was or how to handle it. He would hold my hand sometimes because that's the only thing he knew, and he felt so inadequate. And I'm like, Dad, that was the best thing. You showed empathy and that you guys were there.
And held on to you.
And you guys drove me down to Bellin Hospital, you know, because you saw me on the verge, you know.
And sleep-deprived psychosis is very common for people.
Yeah,
you know?
And so I was in that.
Is that what you had, like a sleep-deprived psychosis?
And drug-induced psychosis, because that much weed, you know.
Yeah.
The people at the hospital even said, it sounds like PCP was involved. And there's no, like, we don't know. But so 6 weeks I'm in the hospital, and I get out. Perfect timing. I get an acceptance letter to a technical college in Madison that puts me closer to the Madison Scouts.
Oh, cool.
One day I'm in classes for commercial art and still have the depression. And I decide, well, you know what? I think I need a break from class. I walk down the hallway and I'm like, screw it. I'm going to catch the bus and go home. But this thought hit me. Wait, don't go home just yet. Take a right and go down to the rec center, you know, play a game of foosball or a video game or something. I go down there, and over here at the foosball table, I see a guy wearing this green jacket with a fleur-de-lis symbol on the back that says Madison Corps, and I'm like, that's a weird-looking jacket. Madison Corps, is that the Madison? No, it says Madison, you know. So anyway, I walk up to the guy, and I see all these patches on the arms, and one of them up here says 1988 DCI World Champion. I go, are you a Madison Scout? And he goes, yeah, man, my name's Clyde. Nice to meet you. I played cymbals. I just aged out, and I'm like, oh my God, I've wanted to be in the Scouts forever, but I missed auditions because I was in the hospital, you know. And he says, well, dude, you should call Scott anyway, because sometimes they have fallouts, you know, people get into rehearsals and it's too brutal and they quit, so they might have a spot. Here's his number. I run to the payphone, leave this excited message. My name's Jeff Koehn and I want to be in the, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that night, Scott Stewart calls me and he says, well, okay, so tell me, what's your musical experience? And I go, well, I've got, you know, 7 years of jazz band and marching band, all that. You know, I played valve trombone and baritone. And he says, oh, okay, well, you know, unfortunately, right now we only have a French horn spot open. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I thought I'd give it a shot, though. And he goes, well, hold on. I've got a couple more questions. Why do you want to be in the Madison Scouts? Now, he was expecting, well, you guys are the champion, and I want to chase that ring and be a champion. But that wasn't even on my mind. I said, oh my God, I saw you guys in 82 and you guys had this aura and this whole image and this great music. I just want to be a part. I mean, hell, I'll play triangle in the pit if, you know, or I'll be the water boy. And he goes, you know what? Actually, I've got this guy, Dave, who, I got him on euphonium, but he's actually a tuba major in college. Let me give him a phone call, see if he'd be willing to switch over to contrabass. And then if he does, then you would have a shot at euphonium. And I'm like, oh my God, wow, you would do that? He goes, yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll call you Sunday morning and I'll let you know. And
wow.
I'm praying like, oh my God, I can't even believe I've got this, you know. And so Sunday morning he calls and he goes, Dave is switching, so you got a shot. What's your address? I'll bring a horn over to you. And
wow.
And 2 years of my life, best 2 summers of my life, 89, 90. I'm a member of this amazing corps, the Madison Scouts.
This is incredible. And I got those truth chills again when that thought, you know, and those are interesting, those little thoughts that come from, we don't know, the divine or where, that just says, or I believe in like spirit guides. You know, I do think I have these
angels, spirit guides.
Yeah,
and all that.
I think I have these little muses that are like, hey, what if you did this? And God, that is amazing. Can you imagine?
And it was the first time in my life that I had a fire lit in me. And fast forward a couple years, I'm an alumni now, aged out in 1990. This is like the spring of 93. I remember one day in the spring of 93, I'm praying with my roommate Charlie from my church, and I'm like, Charlie, I love living in Madison, and I'm just in customer service, but I feel like I'm getting depressed again. I feel like I was meant for something bigger, and I'm like, would you pray with me that God would lead me into like you know what, fuck it, I'm going to go for broke. I want to be a professional artist, like I'm talented at art. And he goes, you got it, man, let's pray for that. Okay, well, so around that time, I'm like, oh, it's Sunday afternoon, I'll go watch the guys rehearse, the Scouts. So I go over to the field house where they were. Justin Russell's mom comes up and says, hey, Jeff, you know those drum corps drawings that I see that you do? Do you have your little portfolio with you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. She goes, well, because Justin is going to this art school, and he wants to show his friends and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, I could do that. And so I give it to her to give to him and didn't think anything of it. 2 weeks later, I get a call. Hey, is this Jeff Koehn? I'm like, yeah. Hey, my name's Carrie Pastine. I'm admissions rep at Colorado Institute of Art. I've seen your drawings. You got fucking talent, man. I want you to come out to Denver and go to this school. And so that thread of being in the Scouts, I meet with one of my fellow marchers, goes to this art school. It brings me here. That launches me into my art career, which launched me into my comedy career. I mean, it's just all orchestrated.
Isn't it cool? Like the things that just following your passion, following that, whatever that was, that feeling of awe that you had with the Madison Scouts, and step into it. Like when the light shines right there, step towards that.
And it is a leap of faith, but it's almost like, I remember in the summer of 2001, I had briefly moved back to Wisconsin, which caused depression again because I was compromising. I was letting my inner self kind of get taken back over by my parents. They genuinely wanted to help me. They're like, oh, you know what, move back and regroup and blah, blah, blah. But it was traumatizing. So anyway, one day I'm like, and I had a church guy back there because I kept talking about art, pursuing art. And he's like, well, no, God has you here. And what if he's preparing you to be a missionary? And I'm like, fuck that. No, if that's what my calling was, I would be passionate for that. I'm not.
That's not your passion.
So one day I'm like, okay, God, here's the thing. I am going to be an artist. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to break down every wall that I have to. Please bless that. And I'm going to move back to Colorado where I was meant to be. And you know what? If you're trying to keep me here, then well, I guess you're going to have to like slap me or something like that. But instead, I swear I heard a slow clap from heaven as if to say, bingo, yeah, duh, hey, McFly.
Let me do the slow clap.
Thank you for finally, rising up and taking the gift that I gave you. And just the doors almost magically, the career that I have in art opened because of that intention. And that's why, I want to speak this truth, because I'm sure there's people who are just kind of under this blanket of depression or who am I? What am I supposed to do? And if you start even the first step, following your passion, it's like, I'm not saying that will automatically cure clinical depression or whatever, but
it certainly brings an aliveness that, when I think about depression for myself, it is a deadening of something. It's that awakening that passion is. And what did you say earlier? Suppression or oppression leads to depression.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I read it. Somebody had it on a bumper sticker.
Suppressing our authentic self. We don't, in our culture, it's like, I want to fit in. I want to belong. And when you have to change yourself to belong in either a family, a community, a culture. And I think that's when we start saying, wait a minute, I know this isn't a popular thing to be, whether it's like in my case, when I identified as a lesbian or whatever, it's not necessarily pleasing my mother.
Sure,
it definitely displeased her, but it awakened me. And then
you found a connection.
And then I keep meeting people. Like, this is what I love about doing this, like doing Traumedy too, because we meet each other, and I love our comedy community. I'm sure in your art community too. I just love the people we get to meet. Like, to me, that's the best thing that's come out of it. Not necessarily
so true.
There's a part of us that I wanted to, like, at some point in my childhood, be famous, because that would make me special, or that would that would cure my inadequacies. But
I have that with I'm like, but if Wendy finally passes me, then I'll be somebody. In the last promotion, like, I didn't get promoted again, and I'm like, well, then who am I in the, and then I have to realize, no,
don't make her your higher power.
She's not my higher power.
No.
But yet I respect that, well, she's looking for certain things. I may not fit that. That's okay, and that doesn't invalidate her or me.
And trying to trust our path.
Yeah. And I also realize that, oh, you know what? Okay, when I have those moments when I'm at the club and I'm like, oh, well, that person doesn't like me, and then it hits that same
rejection trauma.
Search for significance and status. But even more to the point, I get home and I go, why am I letting this affect me? I shouldn't be affected. This is all 8th grade stuff. And then I realize, oh wait, I'm diminishing my own working through trauma. And okay, what if God placed me in this struggle that who am I in the Denver comedy scene, and all those feelings of childhood rejection, they're being brought up again because maybe that is to sharpen me and to make me a better vessel in the community for other people. I love encouraging young comics.
Yeah.
That's something that it pleases me when they figure something out.
Yeah.
And I watch them like nail the joke. I'm like, yes, he did it, or she did it, Yeah. But maybe that's part of why I'm here. And maybe, like, the people that I think don't like me, it's so funny. I discovered that, oh, you know what? I'm not even mad that she didn't put me on the roster. I'm mad because I interpret it as she doesn't like me as a person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where does that come from?
When you're a comedian and your commodity is your comedy, it's so hard to separate those out. It really is. One of the things that I'm getting is, like, anything like that bothers me just points to where I need to heal. Like, Nancy, you need to keep filling that. Like, again, I keep harping on my program, but it's so much about connection with higher power. And when we have that constant contact with higher power, we're never lonely. We're never questioning. We're like, oh, okay. We turn our will over, and it's sort of like, okay, God, use me. How am I supposed to be of service? And like you said, this makes us more available to certain people, or also to ourselves.
And I'm getting chills because that's reminding me that, oh my God, when I let go. Sometimes it's every other day I go back to I remember. But it's when I let go, God reminds me that, hey, isn't the most fun time on stage when you just kind of surrender the agenda and just roll with, even like ditching the set. And, hey, what if you want to talk about that weird thing?
Surrender to the muses. Yeah. Surrender. I like that. Surrender the agenda. It's got a nice ring to it. That might be the name of this episode.
Surrender the agenda.
Surrender the agenda. That might be the name of this episode. Thank you for dropping in. And I want to continue to talk with you about stuff and play chess, turns out.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we, and I'll play a little clip from the Madison, what are they called?
Madison Scout Drum Bugle Corps.
And
I'll send you a clip.
Okay, send me a clip. And then also, so people can find your art, and can we buy your art? Like, off of, how do we buy your art?
Now,
like,
that's a tricky thing, because I have a rep and the galleries that she sells to represent me.
Where are so how do we find your galleries?
Okay, so you can Google, if you just type in Jeff Koehn art.
Okay.
Galleries that I'm in will pop up.
Okay.
And then people can either contact them, or they can contact my art rep, Sarah Stock.
Okay.
And her number is 303-888-9978.
303-888-9978.
Remember the old 588-2300 Empire? Yeah.
All right. Find Jeff Koehn on Instagram.
Or, Jeff Koehn Stand-Up on Instagram.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Jeff Koehn Stand-Up on Instagram, and I'll put a link in the show notes. And
nice.
Oh my gosh, this has been amazing. I have a lot of questions, but we have to stop for now.
Yes.
Because I've got a Scrabble date.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
want to thank my guest, Jeff Koehn. Check out his Instagram, Jeff Koehn Standup. And that's, you know how to spell it, Koehn. That's Jeff Koehn, and I want to thank my son for putting together the music loop for Traumedy. I want to thank you, the listener, for being on this co-healing journey, you listening to it, holding space, and it's peer-to-peer sharing. We're doing our best trying to show here's how we got through stuff using comedy, using expression, art, music, anything that helps move you back into a space of creativity and empowerment. That's what I'm talking about on Traumedy. Thanks for tuning in. I will do my best to upload another episode from the lake cabin if I have enough Wi-Fi. If not, I'll see you in a couple of weeks probably. Get out there and create something. I'm Nancy Norton. Remember, no matter what, keep laughing.